You know, one of these days I may actually do something where it makes people think I know what I'm talking about. Today may not be that day. Hey y'all, everybody's favorite bumpkin here. Hey, check it out. We have a falling iguana warning going on in Central Florida right now. That's right, a cold snap of monumental proportions is heading our way. Red Rider Canada, I totally blame you on this, girl, okay? Your weather got away and snuck out of the yard. Long story short, we have a falling iguana warning here in Central Florida right now because we are going to see temperatures in the 30s for the next couple of days. I know, weird, right? I might actually have to wear something with sleeves. But thankfully, this too shall pass. This is something that rarely happens here, and we really don't have a winter here, and I'm really not bitching about that because, you know, shit clicks and pops enough whenever I get out of bed in the morning as it is, okay? I don't need to be stuck in the deep freeze. I've done my time. On a little bit more serious note, November 10th. A lot of you guys out there that may be watching this right now, you know the significance of that day. For those that don't, happy birthday, Marine Corps. We appreciate the hell out of you, everything we do. Thank you for your service. May all of your Crayolas chew freely. May your 64 count box come with its own sharpener. Obligatory safety brief here. Don't add to the population. Don't subtract from the population. And whatever you do, don't get gunny involved because that ain't going to end well, okay? I can joke about that shit because we produced a midget Marine. She's small. Anyway, Toon Tavern. Who'd have thought the most elite fighting force that America's ever put to the field was conceived in a bar? It's weird, right? Without further ado, let's do some shovel shit. We got to put a primary together. Hang out, guys. Anyway, before we jump in here, I'd like to take a minute to brag on my eldest offspring, you know, the midget Marine. She sent me this the other day for Father's Day, but also to celebrate our brand spanking new granddaughter. So, yeah, thanks, Frog. I appreciate the hell out of that. It's comfy, chubby guy sized. Okay, so last time we were in this, I showed you guys how to get the primary squared up and get the motor and the transmission squared up and the chassis. We got our chain alignment set. We got all that stuff done. Now we just got to throw all the guts in there, okay? Now, keep in mind, we sealed the primary on this thing. So we don't have all the mess of plumbing and snakes and hoses and tubing and stuff that looks like some kind of a mad science project going to the backside of the primary now. But there's a couple of things that I need to remind y'all about. Whenever you seal a primary like this, don't put a full quart of oil in there, okay? Only put a half a quart in there because the old style, you know, 3 and 5 finger shovel clutches, they were kind of sort of a dry clutch, but not entirely. Yeah, the plates would get a little bit oil film on them and, you know, they'd get a little greasy here and there, you know, just from oil flinging around inside there, but they're not meant to be submerged like a late model clutch. So remember, half a quart, 1 pint, 16 ounces, or what is that, 32 shot glasses? I don't know. I'm sure you guys out there in the bar industry can remind me, but I'm just going off a dead reckoning here. Hey guys, check it out. I want to show you something that I did on my little solvent tank here the other day that makes life a whole lot more livable. Originally, these things have this stupid little bendy tube right here, and they intend for you to fold it down whenever you close the lid and all that, and it's stiff as hell, and it generally makes a pain in the ass of itself because it's always in the way no matter what you do. Crap. Now, I came across this little guy on Amazon, and it's neat because it's got plenty of bendy tube on it to where you can point it wherever you want it to go, but it's magnetic mount, so you can put it wherever you need it. And that comes in handy. I left my hose a little long right now because I'm not exactly sure if I want to cut it down or not, because it coils up around the inside of the solvent tank whenever I'm not using it. But if I needed to, I could put the thing, like up here or whatever, wherever. But I'll leave you guys a link to this thing, and maybe it'll help you out. Also, before we get too deep in this video, I want to apologize to you guys if you hear the incessant buzzing from the sonic jacuzzi over there. We got parts we got to clean. It is what it is. Not like that, you perverts. Seriously, grow up. Gosh. Okay, so we got all of our primary parts and guts and clutch and plates and chains and bolts and sprockets and screws. Oh my. We got all that stuff either cleaned up or in the process of being cleaned up. So check it out. Here's the easy way to do this. You guys remember in the last video, we went ahead and we got this clutch hat. We got it torqued down. We got the super nut on, all that, yada, 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 all that. Funny little thing about shovel clutches. When they're stock, when they're not modified, watch this. Ta-da! Yeah. The only damn thing that holds that clutch shell in place is all the springs and screws that puts the preload on the clutch pack itself. So this is why shovel clutches will tend to float around and snatch and grab and drag and stuff like that at a stoplight. It all moves, okay? But you can kind of use this to your advantage whenever you're putting it together, because you can just slip it off, put the chain on, slip everything back in place, and then you worry about putting all the shit inside there that holds it all together. Now, let me show you something here real quick. If you look real close, you might be able to see, you might not, I don't know. But, see, we got a little bit of our patent not pending homebrew assembly goo on there, and that's mostly just to give some initial lubrication to the bearing rollers on this bearing cage here on the clutch hat. Now, in years past, I've been a big fan of the Big Fix kit that BDL makes, and what it does, you remove this retainer plate and the springs, and you remove the original bearing cage and the original bearing elements themselves, and they give you 52 of these long quarter-inch diameter, I think they're quarter-inch diameter, close enough. But they give you 52 of these things, and you have to stack them up inside here all the way around the perimeter. Now, it's a little fiddly going together, but it generally works really good. Here, as of late, I've kind of fallen out of love with that a little bit for a couple of specific reasons. Some of them are pertinent across the board, and some of them were for an individual basis. If you guys want to know about it, hit me up down here in the comments. I'll explain my reasons why on that, because I really don't want to get into a big diatribe on it right now, because chances are I'll start a pissing match on the internet, and nobody wants that. So, primary chain. Yeah, I already threw this thing in the jacuzzi. It's already cleaned off. No, I don't worry about pre-lubing these things whenever I put them in, unless I'm going to fire the thing up and ride it away that day, because we're doing plenty of other stuff on this bike, all right? This thing, he's going to have more than ample opportunity to swim around in that primary case and pick up a little bit of oil here and there before he actually starts doing some work. Also, it makes it a little bit easier whenever you don't have oil dripping off of it everywhere, getting all over your gasket surfaces where you're trying to keep them clean and dry. Go ahead, wash it off, put it in dry. It'll be fine. But take your chain, loop it on the back side of the clutch shell, like so. You want to pay attention and make sure that your tensioner shoe is pointing in the proper direction. And then, just for good measures and for feel goodsies, let's go ahead and put that motor sprocket on there, shall we? Then, you can hang that guy on the studs, and it's a bit of a juggle, but we will survive here. Hang that on the motor shaft, or the sprocket shaft extension. Slip that up into place. Slip that up into place. Boom, boom, boom. Everything's there. Everything's hanging. Nothing's going to go anywhere on you. Now, keep in mind, I've got assembly lube on the back side of that clutch shell where that friction disc from the clutch head is, and also for the rolling elements. You also need to put a little bit on your compensator on the back side of that, because remember, it freewheels. See? Watch. Yeah. There's always time for lubricant. Yeah. Had to turn the buzz box off. Couldn't take it anymore. This is what I was talking about, though. you can bend that little guy pretty much wherever you need him. And also, it's got this nifty little flow control valve there to where if you need to slow it down, you can. But if you need to go all kind of cowabunga, you can do that too. Just watch out so it don't spray everywhere and makes a mess. Now, honestly, this derby cover, it's kind of beat up, a little bit dicked up. I'm going to order my man a new one in because I would really hate to put this thing back on this bike after the amount of work that we're putting into this thing. But we're going to go ahead and wipe off the spooge right now, just for general principle and for feel-goodsies. This stuff wasn't terribly gooey to begin with, but sitting on the shelf out here in the shop the past couple of months, the oil film on there has a certain amount of attraction. So don't kink shame. It just it likes playing with the dust balls. This is where these little mesh baskets that I use for the ultrasonic cleaner and also the soda blaster really come in handy. You can put all your nuts and bolts in here, dunk them in the ultrasonic, put them in the blaster, do whatever. Then whenever you're done, you ain't even got to take them out. Just shake them around while you're rinsing them off in the solvent tank. It gets all the goo off, it leaves them nice and clean, and then you can hit them with a little bit of brake cleaner, and they're nice and dry and ready to go. See? Like so. Ah, we got a jumper. By the way, guys, not plugging the big box machine, but seriously, $1 per dollar, that's the best bang for the buck out there on brake cleaner and carburetor cleaner. Hit up Walmart. It's the same stuff that O'Reilly sells under their house brand, and it actually does a damn good job, and it doesn't break the bank. Of course, it works better when the can is not empty. There's another molecule in there. I can feel it. Ah, there it was. Also, when you're spraying stuff off like this, do it over your parts tank. That way, the stuff that drips off, it goes back into the solvent. So you're kind of not really wasting it because it all gets mixed back up and you can repurpose it. Think of it as it transcending from one plane of existence to another. Before we start throwing this, before we start throwing the clutch in this thing, a couple of things here, okay? A word for a moment, if you will. All clutch plates, and I mean any and all clutch plates, except for a rare few instances in Ducati that I can think of off the top of my head. But we're not talking about pasta rockets here. We're talking about Shovelhead shit. So, here we go. Originally, these were intended to be a dry clutch, semi-dry, if you will. They always had oil film and they always had oil mist flying around inside the primary with them. And also, that's why we run a little lower oil level in the primary case, just because of the fact that we don't need these clutch plates swimming in oil. However, they got to be oiled. That friction material has got to be able to suck up a little bit of oil just to absorb a little bit. That way it moistens the friction plates, because if you take them out of the package, brand new, out of the box, and you slap them in there teetotally bone-ass dry, what's going to happen, they're going to get really, really grabby, like bad grabby. Like a clingy ex-girlfriend named Becky when she's reaching for your phone. Yeah. This will be your secret weapon in this, okay? Exhibit A, Ziploc bag. Hashtag not sponsored. Sneak into the kitchen, go find you a gallon Ziploc bag and smuggle that shit out of the house whenever the old lady ain't looking. Or if you're a grown-ass man, take your ass down to the store and go buy you a box of them, because they come in handy for a lot of stuff out in the garage, and yeah, you probably need some. I had to go steal one because I'm out. Take your convenient Ziploc bag, open said bag, and then lovingly deposit said clutch plates into a aforementioned bag. Observe. Now, I know I'm fixing to start a pissing match. I'm probably going to break the internet because some people are going to be like, whoa, 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 you can't do that. That's bad. Well, hey, here's the reality of it, okay, guys? Shovelhead. Farm tractor technology. We got to dial the calendar back a couple of decades, okay? Maybe a generation or two. Good old-fashioned, straight 30 weight, non-detergent motor oil. That's what I like for using for soaking plates in, okay? Now, granted, this is a little bit heavier than what a primary specific type of lube would be, but the thing is, you got to think, when these bikes were put down on paper and when they were designed, these things were designed to have straight grade oil in them, 50 weight motor oil. Fun factoid, a hell of a lot of shovels and most of your panheads, they didn't even have an oil filter on them when they left the factory. That was aftermarket shit. Same for Ironhead Sportsters. Yeah. Here's how you do the bag trick. Whatever oil you choose to use, take a little bit of it, not a whole lot. Put you a splash in the bag. And you can see, there ain't a whole hell of a lot in there. I mean, I got maybe 4 ounces in there. Damn, I didn't think this through very good. Anyway, as I was saying, take your Ziploc bag, zip the zipper. Now, you can take your clutch plates and roll them around inside of said Ziploc bag. That way they get a good even coating of oil that they can absorb. After these sit in the bag and soak up a little bit of that precious motion lotion that we've so lovingly applied, when you pull them out of the bag, unzip it, you can kind of wipe off the excess with the edge of the zipper on the Ziploc bag here and kind of use it like a rudimentary squeegee. Or, like what I'm going to do, take a clean shop rag, not one that's got grubby dick fingerprints all over it, but a clean one. Take it, pop it a couple times. Make sure you get all the stray strings and, threads off of it. That way you don't have any lint or anything that's going to stick to the face of the plates. Use that clean shop rag to wipe them off before you start setting the stack up, okay? That does 2 things. Number one, it takes the excess oil off of them that it doesn't need, and it's just going to get squished and it's going to drip out and it's going to make a mess on all your gasket surfaces that you just got done cleaning up. And number 2, that makes sure that you don't have an excessive amount of oil on them that can potentially cause them to swell up a little bit and affect your clutch adjustment. Now, granted, in the grand scheme of things, the odds of that happening is exceptionally low. But low does not mean impossible. I've seen it happen. I've had it happen to me. Hey, it's a shop rag. Let it do its job. Now, when it comes to oil in the primary, especially on something like the old Shovelhead, as I said, these things were originally designed to use straight 50 grade oil. Now keep in mind, this bike used to oil the primary with the motor oil. I.e., back in the day, Harley told you to put 50 weight motor oil in the primary. They told you to put 50 weight motor oil in the transmission because that's what they were designed for. That's what they were built around. Now, on 4-speed stuff, I like to use a little bit heavier oil. I like to use an 80-90 weight, just make sure it's GL4 rated. The 85-140, the GL5 rated stuff, like for the newer 6-speeds, I try not to use that in a 4-speed gearbox. The reason why is it's too thick and it's too sticky and it doesn't flow very well. Because remember, guys, 4-speed trannies, they don't have a whole lot of bearings in them, but they got a whole lot of brass and bronze bushings in there. And you got to have something that's a good compromise between viscosity that cushions gear lash and something that's actually going to be able to flow and move around and do its job, okay? The 80-90, yeah, that gets it done. I really would not ever consider putting a 75 W90 synthetic, even though it is a lighter viscosity. Yeah, synthetics and 4-speeds, that don't work. It's enough of a chore to seal them up as it is. Don't add to your problem. Now, the reason I say that is synthetics are too damn slick. They are too good of an oil for the older style gasket and seal technology. Now, granted, on this, we've updated a lot of that along the way, but you still have a practical limit as to what you can and cannot get away with. The reason I prefer using a non-detergent HD 30-weight motor oil for soaking clutch plates, the biggest thing is that whole key phrase, non-detergent. See, here's the thing. Regular motor oils and stuff that's rated for modern vehicles, they have a certain amount of detergent package that is intended to emulsify dirt and stuff and junk and contaminants That way it stays in suspension in the motor oil and it gets picked up by the oil filter. That's the thought process there. A non-detergent motor oil doesn't allow for that. What it does do is all of the contaminants, all the solids, all the heavy materials, it lets that settle to the bottom of whatever you have it in. Now, in years gone by, this was a key component in the buildup of sludge in the oil tank and also in the bottom of the crankcases, things like that. That's why back in the day, and even to this day, everybody stressed change your oil when the motor is hot right after you just got done riding the bike, because all that stuff kind of picks up and it helps eliminate that layer of goop that's sitting on the bottom of the cases and the bottom of the oil tank. I don't like using a detergent-based oil in a primary because that detergent can get burnished into the face of the friction lining, and that will cause some weird clutch stuff going on. It can promote clutch slippage, it can promote clutch chatter, it can make for a goofy engagement feel, it can increase the odds of you having the dreaded 4-speed clutch lurch. Yeah, it's lawnmower oil, guys. You probably got some laying around. Use just a little dab of it, okay? You ain't never going to miss it. All right, check it out. It's a good idea to take you an old grubby shop towel and throw it down underneath the clutch shell whenever you're building the clutch up, because you're going to get a few drips here and there, okay? Now we have our clean shop towel here that is so graciously volunteered to distribute. Like I was saying, take your clutch plates out of the bag after they've been soaking. Just wipe it off. It ain't got to be like totally squeaky clean dry. It's totally fine to have a film on there. But don't just throw them in there dripping wet, because all you're going to do is just make a mess. Remember, on a stud clutch, you always got to start out with the friction. You start with the friction, you end with the friction. Also, on the old 4-speed clutches, you know, they got the big monster metal plates in there. If you have the style like this, where it has the little spring-loaded anti-rattles on there, look on the edge of the clutch plate, and yeah, it'll have stamped right there. Oh, it'll have stamped right there. See where my finger is? What's that say? It says out. That means it faces away from the primary, okay? The reason being is these little balls are spring-loaded, and these were intended to, you know, cut down on the noise in the clutch stack. You won't always have them. A lot of the aftermarket plates that you buy, they're going to be solid. They won't have them. But if you got them, make sure they're going the right direction. Also, another thing on this style where it's got the little anti-rattle balls that I like to do, make sure you stagger these off. Because look, you got 6 big notches that engage in the drive lugs and the clutch shell. Well, you've only got an anti-rattle in 3 places. So look at how you're building your stack up, okay? You don't want to line up an anti-rattle with an anti-rattle like that. So what you do, pay attention to how you're stacking them up in the shell. That way you can clock them to where they're offset from one another. That way it spreads them out and it helps them do their job a little bit better. Here's the part that everybody dreads about dealing with a stud clutch. How in the hell do you get this back here with this in place while you got 10 of these damn clutch springs that you're trying to hold in position, but you only got studs that'll hang on to 5 of them, or 3, depending on what you had in there? Well, here's the easy way around that. No, the easy way is not to run off to Amazon and buy a special tool, okay? You already have the tool, you just don't realize it. Now, I know a lot of you graybeards out there will be like, oh yeah, we know about this. Well, hey, that's cool, man, and I'm glad you do. But we got a lot of people that are new to shovel heads and new to stud clutches and new to 4-speeds. So sit tight. This is how we learn, y'all. Best way to take care of this little guy? Well, you got to stack up springs like so, right like that, and you got to hold them all together somehow. Go find you a big flat washer. Something that'll just overhang that hole in the middle, but it's not going to intrude on your stud holes here where the stud nuts go down. Yeah. Here, I'll show you how it works. Take your pressure plate, lay it down, stack your springs up on top of your holes, like so. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect and pretty. You just need to get them in the ballpark for now. Take your spring retainer, you set that down on top of it. Make sure all your springs are underneath the little nubbins that holds them in alignment and keeps them where they're supposed to be. Then take a flat washer. This actually isn't a flat washer. This is an offcut of aluminum I just happen to have laying over on the lathe. You can see I put a little bitty step in there to where it catches the edge of that spring retainer. But, flat washer will do just fine. But I had it, and now I've got it forever because I've got a couple of these at the shop that, I've made many moon ago. And plus, we're fancy and shit like that around here. Drop him right there, and then take your clutch adjuster nut, spin it on down, right like so. There. Then you can just take that, kind of wiggle it a little bit as you're putting it up in there. That way everything finds its home going in there. There you go. Now all you got to do, take a screwdriver, hold your adjuster screw in the middle, and you can take a wrench, run that on down, and then you got all your clutch springs compressed to where you can get your hat nuts on there. And you can set your height here on your pressure plate. Right like that. And the cool thing is you can do this whenever you're disassembling the clutch as well. That way you maintain your clutch adjustment, and you also save your sanity because you're not chasing all the springs that decided to go boing and shoot themselves halfway across the shop whenever you took the nuts off. Now you guys will notice that our special snazzy little adjuster nuts here, check it out. See how they got that little slot cut in them? Yeah, well, that's to engage these little nubbins that poke out from the spring retainer. This is where you set your stack height at. This is where you set your clutch hat height at. And I need to run that in just a little bit more because I barely caught the edge of that thing. But what I prefer to do whenever I'm setting one of these up, I'll turn these things in until the end of the stud is just flush with the outside face of the nut. That gives me a good starting point. That way, I've got my clutch pressure plate moderately, mostly kind of sort of even and level all the way around. And also, I prefer the 5-finger hats over the 3-finger hats because on the 3-finger hats, you got one stud over here and 2 over here, and it just makes it kind of wonky and weird. The 5-finger hats, if you got to put a new clutch hat in one while you're in there, go ahead and spend an extra $5-10, buy the 5-finger. You won't regret it. Okay, guys, now you got to set your clutch stack height there, or actually your spring plate height, excuse me. Bad verbiage on my part. Shame on me. I'm a horrible instructor. This is where you can kind of make sure you get it really close and shit. Because, yeah, comes in handy. Here's the thing, all joking aside. Your stock height measurement on this from the face of the pressure plate to the back side of the retainer here is supposed to be 1 1/16 of an inch. It's kind of hard to get in there with a caliper and measure in the traditional sense, and a tape measure, that's crude, okay? But here's what you can do. A 1/16 of an inch, that works out to 0.0625 inches. That's 62.5 thousandths of an inch. So, take your dial caliper, dial it up to 1.062. Right like that right there. And then hit that handy little thumb screw there that locks your adjustment in place. And then what you can do, this is another reason why I like leaving that compensator loose, because I can spin this around when I need to. But what you do, take your depth measurement here, just come off of the face of it like that, lay it on top, and crank your adjuster nuts down until you get to your proper height. Now, whenever I'm working these things in to get it in the ballpark, so to speak, doing one full turn at a time. That'll be 2 pings on your little notch nuts here. Notch nuts. Sounds painful. Doing that, you're walking this spring plate down evenly, okay? You're not getting it all whomper-jawed off to the side. Ooh, daddy like a lot. Usually, it's a fool's errand to sit there and chase these damn nuts around and try to get every single point where you're measuring exactly on 1 1/16 of an inch. You're always going to have a little bit of variance there because these spring retainer plates, they're stamped steel. They're not exactly what you call square and even, okay? The main thing is you want to go around and make sure that all 5 of your adjuster nuts aren't floating free. Like this one right here, I can move him just a little bit with my fingers. So what I'm going to do, let's give it one more click. And everybody's happy and even. Let's set our clutch adjustment, okay? Now on these, depending on what year your transmission and your clutch assembly is, it may have a flat face on the clutch adjuster screw like this one. It may have a rounded end to it, okay? It depends on whether you've got a 2 or a 3-piece clutch release rod in there. Don't overthink it. It's not that big of a deal. But what I have seen people do in the past, and what I really like, enterprising soul can take this to a machine shop and they'll counterbore it and they'll press a ball bearing in the end of that. And what it does is that it cuts down on the friction from the clutch push rod having to lift the clutch. I ain't going to go there on this one. But what I am going to do, take a little bit of heavy grease. This is our good old Maxima Blue here. And just put you a little dab right there on the end of that thing to where you got a good heavy coat of grease on that thing right there on the business end where he's taking all the load. Take that, screw that in there. Do yourself a favor. Do not put any kind of thread lock or Loctite on these threads. You will regret it, I promise. Now I'm doing this with the lock nut off of here for the time being because I want to check my installed height here. There we go. Now you see what I'm doing here? I'm working this clutch arm here where it comes out of the transmission, and I'm feeling, look at my hand here, I'm feeling for where that adjuster screw bottoms out. Because even when the adjuster screw is bottomed out on the throwout bearing, you still got movement here. So you want to make sure that you do this with the cable either unhooked or your adjustment collapsed all the way. That way you can feel this free play on the clutch arm. Because you don't want to preload that release bearing over on the right-hand side of the transmission case because it'll end up killing that thing. We got all of our slack taken out, and we are at 0 play right now. And if you see me pulling on it, you can see how that clutch is working. It's kind of a Rube Goldberg affair how this thing activates, but hey, it's what we got. But, so everything's working, everything's doing what it's supposed to do. Let's work it a little bit just to make sure everything's seated. And then what I like to do is I'll take that and I'll turn that back and forth a few times to feel where it just bottoms out. And then on a stud clutch, I back these off 1 full turn. That way you got a little bit of room to move here, okay? You can thread your lock nut down in place. Y'all see what I did there? I gave it a little bump with the impact. That's bad. Don't do that. My dumbs are my dumbs. You do your own dumbs. I have mine. But we're locked into place now, and we've got 1 turn, 1 full turn out from being fully seated on our adjuster screw here. The reason I do 1 full turn on these instead of a half turn like what is commonly accepted, this is a very fine thread on this adjuster screw, okay? Also, another thing is I want to have enough in play here to where I can get my clutch cable hooked in, and then whenever the clutch actuates, I can get my cable adjusted without having my adjuster ran all the way out here, okay? But on the flip side, just because of manufacturing tolerances, a lot of times I find on 4-speeds, whenever I do a half turn in, like the book says, it puts this arm so far back that I barely have any adjustment on my adjuster there. A lot of this is going to kind of depend on your particular situation and your particular bike and what parts you're putting it together with. Because, let's be real, y'all, these things have been around the block a time or two at this point. So you're always going to have to kind of blur the lines whenever it comes to the service manual. The main thing is make sure you're not preloaded on your release over here on the right-hand side of the transmission. Make sure that you've got free play there. Let that bearing live. It's got to have free play to where it can get oil flow up in there to keep it from overheating and pancaking on you. But there, we got a 4-speed clutch. Yay! I'm putting this adjuster bolt in for the primary chain shoe, but I'm just putting this guy in finger tight right now because we still got to put our compensator nut and everything in there. And again, grab the homebrew, okay? Because even though we've got this nice shiny new hard chrome compensator here, it's got smooth ramps that are not galled up, we want to keep it that way. So we're not going to put this shit together dry. Now, obviously, you don't have to glob this shit on with a trowel, but put you just a little bit of assembly grease on the face of the ramps just to give them a little bit of slickum whenever you first start this thing, because this is going to move and it's going to walk back and forth, you know, because of the way the starter hits the starter drive and how the starter cranks the motor over. One thing a lot of people never think of, put it in the spline in there as well, because these things slide in and out as that compensator is opening and closing when it's on the ramp. So give it a little bit of lube there too. Little dab will do you. Okay, gang. Watch the primary chain when I push this compensator ramp in all the way and put pressure on it. There, I'm making contact. See that? That's how the compensator works. This floats freely, and it's just indexed by the spring pressure from your spring cup here whenever it's bolted onto the end of the crankshaft. This is designed to move. This is designed to move. That's why we put a little bit of assembly grease on the splines. Just make sure you don't get it down inside there. And I'll put just a little light smear on this flat edge here. I know I'm smearing it all over the place, but the main goal is to get it on that flat edge there, because that is where the spring cups ride on that outer ramp on the compensator. It's little stuff like that, but it goes a long way towards keeping you from beating up your parts and wearing them prematurely. Okay, here's where the chemical hate comes in, okay? Now, don't go overboard with this stuff. 3 drops, that's all you need. 1, 2, 3. And I'll take the tip of my bottle there and just kind of spread it around inside a little bit to where it follows along with the threads. See? That is all you need right there. I swear I've pulled these things apart before, and some of you guys have poured tablespoons of shit in here. Since it moves, we're going to take a little bit of our assembly grease and we're going to put it on the outer face of this, because we've got our compensator nut that meets up here and it rotates. It moves. If it moves, it needs lubricant. Now, if you're a die-hard by the book type, look away now. And there we go. Primer is assembled. I know. The big ugga-dugga wrench is not something you're supposed to use on a compensator nut, but you know what? Kind of done this for a little while. That and I know my tools. And I'm pretty confident with where I decided to stop at, okay? Now, the thing is, I do this on the daily, all right? I'm used to what I'm doing, and I'm used to what I'm doing it with. That's not to say that I'm all willy-nilly and that torque specs don't exist for a reason, because they do. They're important and shit. But on something like this, spec on these things was 85 to 95 foot-pounds. Now, granted, I'm going off memory here. And then later on, Harley revised that to 150 foot-pounds when the Evo came about. That was a good thing, because at the lighter torque spec, I've seen more than a few of these things walk loose. Now, if they're done right and the thread locker is applied right on a clean, dry surface, not something that's dripping with oil, if you do that, you'll never have a problem shaking one of these things loose. Here on our primary chain, we're shooting for about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch of up and down free slack, whenever the motor's at ambient temp, because you got to think, all of this, it's aluminum. All of this, it's going to grow when it gets hot. So what's going to happen is, if you don't give it enough free slack now, when it grows, and it will grow, it's a grower, not a shower, this is going to tighten up to the point to where it's actually going to side load the clutch shell here, and that's just hard on parts. Not to mention, you're already fighting an uphill battle getting a clean clutch release on a 4-speed with a stud clutch like this anyway. Don't go begging for trouble. Well now, this wasn't entirely unexpected, nor was it entirely unforeseen. I just flat out missed it whenever I broke this thing down and was cleaning up all my parts. Check it out. This little guy right here, that's supposed to be threaded for 1/4-20. That's what holds our starter housing in there. Well, small problem there. Yeah. Some nitwit drilled that damn bolt hole all the way through, and they probably had a nut on the backside of it because they stripped the damn threads out of the thing. So, we're going to learn how to helicoil stuff here, kids. Let me show you guys how to do this and how it's done, and then I'll explain the science behind it here in just a minute, okay? First off, we got to make that hole a little bigger. Well, that didn't take much, now did it? Okay, now any helicoil set or thread repair kit that you buy, it's going to come with a couple of things. Number one, it's going to come with a drill bit that's the appropriate size for the repair insert that you're using. And also, it's going to come with a tap. Now, these taps are a spec size thread for a repair insert. And by the way, you should always use a tap handle whenever you're doing this. Don't ever do what I'm doing right now. There. Yeah. What I just did, don't ever do that. Give it a little shot of brake cleaner just to clear the chips out. Okay, now here's where the magic happens. If you look close, you'll notice, so it looks like a spring. Well, basically it is, more or less. All a helicoil insert is a piece of square section stainless steel wire that's coiled up to where it behaves as a spring. Here, I'll show you. You've got your driver here, and it's got the little drive notch, and it engages in that drive tang on the end of the insert. You slip it over there, like so, to where it can grab a hold of it and twist it in. Now, as you're twisting that in, this is going to wrap up like a spring, and it's going to compress, but it springs out, and that's how it locks itself in the hole. Now, most of these insert tools have a little stop if you've got a critical depth that you're trying to maintain or something like that. For this, I don't have to worry about that. I'm just putting it in just below flush because that's all we need. But put just a little bit of pressure on it as you're twisting it in, and you can see that thread's in there pretty nice and easy. Minimal of fuss. It's not really putting up a fight. Now, right there, I'm just at flush with the gasket surface on our primary cover here. I'm going to go 1.5 turns below flush, because that way I've got enough meat to support the very top edge of that repair insert with the threads that we cut into that primary cover. And lastly, you remember that little tail that drove the insert in there? You know, the part we twisted it in with? Most kits give you a little knockout punch. And you need to pop that thing out of there. Like, oh, I dropped him. Where'd he go? There he is, right there. See the little tail that I broke off of that insert? They score these right here. That way you can twist the insert in, but it's already weakened to where you can pop that guy out of there. Now, if you're in a blind hole, if this thing didn't have a backside to it, what you can do is after you break that tang off, you can take you an air nozzle from compressed air, and blow it in there, just be watchful for the little guy and make sure that he comes out of there. Also, make sure you wear your safety specs. That way you don't end up with pirate eye from it. Just to show you guys this helicoil kit that I got a while back to keep here in the shop. This is a hell of a good deal. I found it on Amazon. Whenever I bought this, I was lucky enough I found this on a Prime deal where I got this for, I think, 35 bucks, something like that. But if you stop and think about it, if you go buy one of these kits at your local auto parts store, say like this one right here, that's your normal 3/8" coarse thread stuff, if you go buy one of these things at O'Reilly's, that usually averages about 25, 30 bucks. It's money well spent. I'll have you a link down below for them, guys, okay? Sorry, guys. Cameraman's day off. I know it was kind of a crummy way of showing y'all, and I'm sorry. But there's millions and millions of videos here on the tubes about how to install helicoils and also time certs. Time certs are a little bit more of an expensive option, and there's a lot of instances where a time cert is superior. A lot of that is kind of dictated by what application you're using and where you're using it at, okay? They do have several different types of both time cert and helicoil kits, hashtag not sponsored, but ultimately it's your decision which is better suited for your specific needs, okay? I got to throw the starter drive in this thing because, yeah, we got to have a way to crank the bike over since we don't have a Kickstarter. But let's set that aside for just a minute, okay? A couple things I want to talk to you about. I want to let you guys know a couple things, okay? Number one, Destiny. Yeah, the Terraglide. I have plans. Oh boy, do I have plans. And I'm going to fill you guys in on that here in a little while, okay? Needless to say, I got a big cardboard box full of parts, and that pile that's in that box is growing day by day. So, yeah, we're going to be breaking into some old school Evo tech. Basically, we're going to build a hot rod FXR motor, and then we're going to stick it in a geezer glide. So, yeah, make sure you stay tuned for that stuff. We're moving forward. I got to get my button gear. I got to get the primary buttoned up on the thing. That way I can start laying down the wiring on this because it's something I need to do now while I got easy access for it. And also, I know that's something that you guys have really been wanting to check out and see. So look for that in the coming weeks, okay? Wife unit update. She's doing good. She went to her surgeon the other day for her 2-month follow-up. Medically, yeah, she's doing 100% awesome as far as her recovery process goes. She's still having a little trouble talking, so we got to get her over to an ear, nose, and throat doc and see what's going on with the vocal cords right now. Unfortunately, this is a side effect from the type of surgery that she had to go through to, repair the damage from her wreck. But, fingers crossed, guys. She's making strides day by day. I love you. You will get better. You're not going to sound like Marge Simpson for the rest of your life. I just got told I was number one. On a serious note, like I said at the top of the video, Semper Fi, Semper Familia. Happy birthday, Devils. Enjoy the crayons, Marines. You earned it. So anyway, guys, minor footnote here, okay? Make sure you stick around here at the end of the video because Gma Rides has got her brand new video that's coming up right after we wrap up here. And I got to admit, she came into the Discord last night and she slayed everybody on trivia night. I mean, she was pulling shit out of her ass that I had no idea about. And she's like, oh, it's this right here. She's a ringer, y'all. You got to watch out for her. Now, the thing is, we try to do trivia every Sunday night over on the JTMJ Discord. And if you're not on the JTMJ Discord, check out the link down below, okay? Because it's going to be down here in the description on this video. That's how you get in where all the cool kids hang out. And I know trivia may sound like something that's kind of the old fuddy-duddy, kind of the equivalent of bingo night, but you know what? We have a hell of a lot of fun doing it. And plus, we have just as much fun cussing at the bot that runs the trivia questions as we do actually playing the game. So, yeah, there's that. I know a lot of you guys saw the short that I put up the other day about the horribly crusty, grody, neck bearings that I pulled out of that guy's fat bob. Wow, man. I mean, that was a trip. We have been slogging through. I mean, for the last month, pretty much every bike we've had come into the shop has blown up into Pandora's box. You come in and you try to deal with one little thing and it evolves into so much more than where it started from. Ooh, yeah, it's that time of year, y'all. Start making plans for your wintertime stuff, kids. If you're in the Great White North and you've already had to put the bike to bed, now is the time to be doing your upgrades and your maintenance and your, to-do list, if you will. So take advantage of it. Throw a space heater out in the garage. If you ain't got a garage, go buy you some coveralls, Bubba. Just get her done. Till I get a chance to meet up with you guys next time, just remember, I love the hell out of you. I appreciate you guys tuning in for these videos that we do every week. And I will definitely, absolutely catch y'all on the flip side.
Force will be with you, always.